Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a pop culture podcast about TV, movies, comics, and all things geek. We're taking a look back at Superman the Animated Series today. I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
This is Tommy Smithereens.
And I'm Clifton.
It's hard to believe, but Superman the Animated Series turns 25 this year.
Wow.
No, it doesn't.
A whole person who can rent a car ago.
Right.
I'm excited to do this one. This show doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. I say that a lot. It gets a little lost in the shuffle. Batman the Animated Series is the innovative game changer, right? Batman Beyond is the rebellious popular one. And Justice League Unlimited is the standard for serialized superhero shows that rewarded viewers for their devotion for 4 series, right? Superman's kind of the middle child here. It doesn't get the same attention the older and younger siblings do. And that's a shame, because it's really, really good.
It is.
Superman the Animated Series debuted in 1996 on Kids WB, created in the wake of Batman the Animated Series. It was set to coincide with the release of Tim Burton's never-to-happen Superman Lives film, starring Nicolas Cage.
Sorry.
Familiar names you've all heard us talk about. Superman the Animated Series was produced by Bruce Timm, Alan Burnett, and Paul Dini because of their success with Batman a few years prior. What we ended up getting was kind of the same formula, a show that cherry-picked the best from all versions of Superman's vast publishing history. Tim Daly brought the Man of Steel to life, while Dana Delaney and Clancy Brown voiced maybe the definitive versions of Lois Lane and Lex Luthor, respectively. Superman ran for 54 episodes across 3 seasons, so let's dive in. This show is great.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah. Good night. Yeah, it's a great show. I still maintain from the start that it's probably one of the best origins we're ever going to get outside of the comics for Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said that for a long time. You know that's how I feel about it.
Oh, yeah.
It still holds up.
I'll go on further.
Okay, go ahead.
I say it's one of the best retellings, including the comics.
Oh, well, of course, yes. But yeah, no, it starts off last Son of Krypton, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Last Son of Krypton 3-parter.
Mm-hmm.
With I remember it aired as a premiere movie in prime time, hosted by Nick Freno, licensed teacher.
Oh wow,
that was the WB back then.
Wow, I didn't remember that part.
I very well may still have that on tape somewhere.
I might as well, someplace.
Yeah,
I may as well. But no, I remember hearing the rumors, and that was long before the internet was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the rumors of that Brainiac was spoiler tied in more to the origins of Krypton, and at the time kind of like what bristling at the idea of that.
Yeah.
And then ever since then I'm like, no, it makes perfect sense. I love the idea of it. It's such a nice way to include that character right off the bat,
right? So
that it makes sense that he's more involved. Make
that connection stronger, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the idea that he wants to collect. I like the idea of Brainiac. I mean, granted, that's not from the show. It's from the comics. The idea that Brainiac's a collector, but I think the idea of, him being around and then being like, oh yeah, by the way, I want to collect all these worlds. Works better knowing that he was still there when Krypton was going to go. So
yeah, it's cool too because it becomes a generational villain too.
Yes,
he's also he's Jor-El's bad guy too.
Yes, right,
exactly.
Yeah. No, I've definitely, I did a 180 on that completely. I thought once I saw it, I was definitely good with it.
I didn't realize that it wasn't the correct thing because as you guys have probably heard me say before, I was not a Superman fan before I saw this show, and this show was my gateway drug to Superman and made me go like, oh, I get him now.
Mm-hmm.
He's cool, and I like this stuff. And I had always heard over and over again about how Superman's bad guys were not any good and nothing to write home about and everything. And listen, the thing that I say to people, I'm like, if you want to appreciate Superman's rogues gallery, watch the first season of this show.
Sure.
Because they are treated very much in the same way as Batman villains are, where Batman the Animated Series gets lauded for that all the time, where, the episode's really about the bad guy more than it is about Batman. the whole first season's like that. We get Parasite's origin and Metallo's origin, and yeah.
But I think when you're talking about the fact that Superman, the animated series, doesn't get quite the love or the accolades that the Batman stuff is, I think that it's part of what makes Batman the animated series work is that it is so heavily based in noir, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a style,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's as easy to pin down what, if anything, the Superman the animated series is sort of borrowing from.
Yeah, I actually have a thought exactly on that, which is like I was a little reluctant on the show, honestly, to begin with. It did not win me over right away.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been a Superman fan, and I'd read, I was into Superman in the comics at the time, and had seen, the other stuff. I'd been into the character for a while, so it wasn't like for Zach, it wasn't my introduction to the character. I had seen these versions that I liked already, and their approach to Batman the Animated Series, the same creators' approach to Batman the Animated Series, their thesis on that one was clearly, what if the Fleischer brothers animated Batman instead of Superman in the 40s?
Right.
Because like the Batman the Animated Series is 100% inspired by the Fleischer Superman cartoons, basically. It is exactly that what if exercise of what if the Fleischers did Batman? And that drives a lot of their creative choices in Batman the Animated Series. They had that kind of palette to look back on, that style to look back on, and just say, like, what would they have done?
Right.
And what can we do kind of in the spirit of that? And then I remember them talking in interviews and stuff at the time before Superman started, and how they were going to basically avoid any of that, like any of the 40s stuff for Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so now your thesis is what if the Fleischer brothers didn't animate Superman?
Right.
And that's what's driving your thing. And that's not anywhere near as compelling to me as what if they did Batman.
Right.
And that I do think that gets to the point of what you're saying. It is kind of harder to pin down. And that is why, like, I was a little slower to get into it, because it didn't have that easy concept that I could just jump in and be like, oh, this is what they're doing. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I did over time appreciate it. I have seen all of it now, and I do appreciate bits of it quite a bit. But yeah, I was a little slow on it exactly for that reason.
Yeah.
There was they were initially, I mean, I'm sure people know this, that there's some design work floating around out there of this show with the 40s aesthetic, because that was what they were thinking for a little while, because clearly, like you were saying, they were inspired by the Fleischer stuff because it's awesome, it's great, right? But they had also thought to themselves, like, the Fleischer stuff is so good that, like, we don't want to be like, we're just going to look like we tried to do that and failed, because they're going to have done it better than we did. Right. For a lot of reasons. And so they avoided they went against doing the 40s stuff with Superman. And I thought that was like an interesting take. But yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. This one doesn't have a language and a visual style like built into it like Batman did. But I mean, what it did do is it kept this Art Deco dynamic of the city. Right. And just went with the brighter futuristic version for Metropolis. Right. Which you guys can explain to me a bit better, because you guys were reading the comics at the time. Was Metropolis, like, distinctively in its visual style meant to be the city of tomorrow always?
I don't believe so. No, it's one of those. I think they play with that a bit later.
Right.
But I don't think at the time it was. I mean, they obviously had, there's future Superman stories and Legion stories with Superman in or Superboy in them. But I mean, as a city, no, I don't think it was ever kind of thought of as the city of tomorrow. I think they basically had, again, there's the debate of whether it's New York or whether it's Chicago, which city it sort of borrows from or uses as its template. But no, I never got the impression that it was supposed to be. Even with, and again, it's one of those things where it's even with, with Lex being at that point, you're into burn, you're post burn Man of Steel and post burn on Superman. So I don't, there's not even that idea that if you're going with Luthor as the businessman, as which what we get in this animated series, there's still not the idea of Lex using, it's not like everybody has LexCorp appliances or LexCorp cars or,
Right.
that's not how he made his money kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, again, if you were going to do that take, I would think that would be the way to go, is that, all that technology is based off of Lex, and that's what
Right.
makes Metropolis go. But we don't get that. So,
Right. I do think in some way that is one of the legacies of this show in some way, even though it's never really like outright said that Metropolis is the city of the future and blah, 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 blah. And, and compared to Gotham City and all that stuff. But I mean, I just think like it just kind of became that. I just feel like everybody just sort of like adopted that moving forward. And I feel like it may have its roots in this show a little bit in that take.
I think we've talked about the idea before. It might have been way back when we did, editor's note, asterisk, when you go, there's an episode we did about fictional cities early on.
You're right.
I think we mentioned the fact, Tommy and I mentioned, like, if you play the DCU online game, Metropolis is always, brightly lit, it's sunshine day. And then Gotham is always is nighttime.
Right. Yeah.
No matter when you visit, it's always that way. And I think that's, again, there's not a lot of street level. I mean, there are bad guys, there are thugs in Superman the Animated Series, but when you're talking about street level crime, obviously Batman, the Gotham City is going to have way more of that than, than Superman would. So,
yeah, inner gang's a thing.
Yeah, of course.
Although interesting that the gang themselves is even sort of like powered up more than a gang in Gotham City is, right? Because like the gang in Superman City is also like a conglomerate of all the gangs together teaming up, right?
Right.
And they're getting powered, then they're getting weapons from another planet.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so I think for me, one of the things also that really makes it palatable is that Superman can be hurt in this show.
Yeah, he's a very vulnerable Superman for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think, right, like he's does amazing things, right? Like he's lifting trains up and and all kinds of things like that too. Like, I mean, it's not like he's not super, but like when he gets hit by a super powered guy, I feel it, right? Like I buy it, like
right. Well, I mean, that's the thing is he's in full command of like all the power Superman's supposed to have, but I know like he there's a lot more of I guess there's an emphasis on the fact of stuff like electricity bothers him more than I thought it would, or or like you said, when he takes a punch or he takes someone swings something at him. It definitely affects him more than I would say. He's definitely not the Silver Age Superman in this.
Right.
Whereas, that Silver Age Superman is much more of a, I can juggle planets. I can do, all that sort of stuff.
Fly back in time.
Right. I can break the time barrier. I think this is, again, even though we're post-Burn, I think a lot of what stuff that was started like in Man of Steel, again, sort of fans out into this. That's one aspect. And the other one is definitely Lex.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about his power set and his ability to get hurt. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that they wanted a more, and this is kind of laughable to say, a more realistic Superman after post crisis. That's the one we get, which I'm fine with. But I definitely you definitely see Superman more so than in anything else. I think, like you said, you can feel those punches, you can feel the battle, you can feel
he gets knocked down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's definitely, but again, it's on a sliding scale because it's one of those things where a fight with Lobo is not the fight that he has, at the end of the series, right? That fight is, we'll talk more about that, but that fight, comparing the two, again, it's a sliding scale of what he can and cannot handle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and worth pointing out that they did this without kryptonite every week. And without magic every week, right? And they did, I think of some innovative ways to make him vulnerable, right? We're like you said, like electricity they make is like has an effect on him, right? Well, if it's enough of it, if it's a big enough dose of it, and light has an effect on him, and
That's one of the things I was going to bring up was as much as I love Livewire as a character that's introduced, Luminous is another one that I'm just like, this character's great, that uses light in ways that, I think outside of Morrison, I don't think anyone's really decided to use that kind of attack on Superman.
Right.
And I say Morrison, meaning Grant Morrison and some of the JLA comics and other stuff that he did.
Right.
Going deeper on Luminous, explain his shtick.
If I remember correctly, he's everyone's a LexCorp scientist, right? In the show, did they all work for LexCorp at one point and they're disgruntled or upset? I can't remember for sure because I haven't watched that episode in so long. But I do remember the one where he's basically using the Red Sun stuff on Superman, which either lessens or decreases his powers, right?
Right. He wasn't an interesting one where he was set up in a previous episode before we saw him as the supervillain. So yeah, he was a scientist. I can't remember if he was LexCorp, but I mean you're right. In that city, it's either LexCorp or Star Labs,
right.
And he was kind of he was somebody Lois would turn to for as a source for things in her story and like as a resource for technology and all that other stuff and everything. He's very, very low level in that first episode. It's just gadgets and stuff like that he's using.
Right.
But when he comes back as Luminous, he's got like the light suit and now he's got like much, much, much more at his fingertips. Right. And so in this, the hook of that one is that he's basically utilizing satellites in orbit to filter out sunlight so that only the red sun rays are coming in and thus making Superman's powers like dwindling.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it's really like, it's awesome. And it's like, why isn't he in the comics more? Right. I think he just debuted like this year.
I mean, he has,
right.
he has a certain like his costuming is like somewhat of a Kirby aesthetic, which they were definitely leading into. I think I remember reading something along the time of I don't know if it's Bruce Timm or Paul Dini saying something along the lines of, we liked the, like you said, we liked the Rogues Gallery that we had, but it kind of clicked for us when we were like, oh, we can use all the Fourth World and Kirby stuff as well.
Right. Yeah.
When, since all that stuff was introduced in you get a lot of that stuff in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen that Kirby did when he came to DC.
It's all very Superman adjacent, and Superman was in Forever People, and
right. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like was it Super Town?
Right.
Super Town and Double X and all that stuff is like you said, it's Metropolis adjacent, right? It's Cadmus, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they had that moment when they're like, oh, well, we could definitely tap into that as potential for Superman, and it's it definitely. But again, I like Luminous a lot. I think Luminous, as much as we get like, we talk about characters that are coming from the show, he's one of the ones that I don't hear many people triumph for Trumpet. They don't really get, they no one. It's like Livewire, which is great, and some of the other ones. But yeah, I love Luminous. I think Luminous is a great character.
Yeah, me too. I think Livewire is a little bit easier to focus on, right? Because she has such a charismatic personality, and and she's a great character too. I think, that's another thing that gets me too. Is I feel like this show should be talked about just more for that, right? That she's a character that's popped up in Supergirl, and
Yeah, she's the closest the show has to a Harley Quinn, like that kind of breakout, like that kind of breakout character, because she has appeared in the Supergirl live action series. It was some cool episodes in season 1. I liked those.
Yep. Those were
and
good.
Original Livewire was Lori Petty, right? Was that who voiced her? Yeah, did an excellent job in the show.
Yeah, Lori Petty was the one that started when it was Leslie. What's the shock jock that she played?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. Yeah, that's right.
Which I think is a nice, and I didn't know it. I mean, I guess I probably knew it at the time, but I'd forgotten that Livewire was that episode was written by Evan Dorkin and Sarah Dwyer.
Oh, really? Milk and Cheese.
And Sarah Dwyer. Okay. They wrote that episode together.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did not know. Like, again, when I think about Livewire, no one ever mentions like they're like the ones that I guess created her for the show. I don't know visually if they came up with the same, if they came up with the rough for her or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, they're the two that created her. But yeah, she's the one that everyone points to. And again, she's a great character. I like her a whole lot. I mean, she's great in the crossover. It's not a Superman episode. It's the crossover, The Girls' Night Out,
Mm-hmm.
when she teams up with Harley and Ivy, and then Supergirl and Batgirl. That's a great episode. But yeah, I just think that as much as we get, like you said earlier, that we got do we want to talk more about new characters? Or we want to talk about the definitive take on some of these voice actors for existing characters? I mean, because I'll keep talking about new characters if we want.
No, go wherever you want.
Okay. Well, like I said, I mean, you got Livewire, you've got what's the Kryptonian, the character that since they couldn't use
Jaxor.
Yeah,
Jaxor and Mala.
Jackson and Mala, yeah, since you couldn't really use, I guess, could they not use Zod and Feora, or they just were like wanting to create something new?
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
This is one, I've never really quite figured out what the story here was.
Right.
And I don't even know if Jaxor is original. Or do you know for sure? Because I don't know that if that is true or not. I'm not saying it isn't. I just don't know. I never knew if he was just some obscure also character from some book in the 50s.
I know. I think he's not original. I think she is, but I'm not certain. Let me look. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's one of those, bearded Kryptonian villains from the Phantom Zone. Yeah, according to Wikipedia, character first appeared in Adventure Comics 289 in October of 1961. He's been described as the worst troublemaker in the Phantom Zone and was the first criminal banished there. So he's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think she was, for whatever reason, was strictly created for the show. I think.
Okay.
I'm not certain. That I'll have to look up really quick. Again. But yeah, it's one of those where, normally the shorthand for Kryptonian villains from the Phantom Zone is Zod or Feora or Non, and Non the other one. From Superman, from the Christopher Reeve Superman 2, which I love. I love those characters. I think the movie's awesome. But
actually, but hang up. But since you're bringing up Christopher Reeve, it is interesting to point out, I think, when that movie always seems to be the reference somewhere, right, in all things Superman that we get in other media.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not a whole lot of reference to Christopher Reeve.
True, that's true. No, you're right.
Like, I mean, for the Fortress of Solitude, when we see it, it's not that crystal Fortress of Solitude that seems to be in every other version.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's an impressive feat also, I think, in my mind, that it's like, not only is it not the Fleischers, but it's also not Christopher Reeve and not Richard Donner Superman.
And Krypton, their Krypton is also different than the Krypton that makes it into every other version or similar. Like the Krypton that usually makes it into the versions is like very brutalist. Like if you have the architecture style, it's very stark. It's very like straight lines and solid things and crystals, like you said, because Fortress of Solitude is often supposed to be like an on-Earth representation of Kryptonian technology, and that's one of the things in the show that I do like quite a bit about is I like that their Krypton looks like a nice place to live.
Yeah,
right.
And most of the time it does not, and it's always one of my pet peeves about like the other stuff that shows Krypton so harshly and show it so horrible is because I'm like, we're supposed to mourn this place. Like, this place doesn't exist. We're supposed to be sad about that.
Right.
But how can you be sad when it looks like such a crappy place to live?
Right.
It does. Yeah.
And I like their Krypton. I like their Krypton is like bright and like World of Tomorrow-ish, like retro future. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's not cold.
Right, that's true.
Which I mean, the funny thing is that like the very open of that first episode is Jor-El like in the ice caps or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like it teases like that super cold, like like barren Krypton for a second, and then you go to the city.
Yeah.
Right, where they live and everything. But it's like Jor-El and Lara like are affectionate to each other, and that's always a thing too. Where like usually it's everybody's stoic and everybody's kind of sterile and
Yeah. All right, so I looked it up. It looked like there was a Mala, an like evil scientist type on Krypton, but it was a man at one point. and they the same sort of thing where it's instead of the precursor to the Phantom Zone, Jor-El puts them in suspended animation and basically launches them into space with his
Right.
two other criminal brothers. So I guess Mala was just a gender swap that they went with.
Okay.
But
yeah, well, and they made them criminals too.
Yeah,
was the thing. Like yeah. No, I mean, good episodes with them too. But so, so not Fleischers, not Christopher Reeve,
right?
And also thinking about it, we talk about how Batman 66 had a period in time where everybody wanted to be as far away from as possible from it.
Right.
That's also the case with the Silver Age. And there was a point where nobody wanted to do Silver Age stuff because it was silly and weird.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this show has kind of an interesting relationship with Silver Age Superman because in some ways it plays to it, in some ways it ignores it, in some ways it depending on the situation will reframe it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really good examples of them like kind of trying to make the Silver Age their own in this. And one is Titano in Monkey. Is it Monkey Trouble? Is that the name of the episode?
Monkey Fun.
Monkey Fun, not Monkey Trouble. That was a movie starring Thora Birch. Monkey Fun. And that's one. I know people don't like that episode, so people don't think that one worked all the time. I do think there's a contingent of fans that don't like Monkey Fun, but that was them doing I like it too. But there is like that is them taking a straight up Silver Age idea of like a monkey turns into a giant, and now how does Superman deal with it, and what zaniness ensues.
That's another Evan Dorkin and Sarah Dwyer.
Is it? Okay. So I'm noticing a trend here. And it should be pointed out, was very young. Like Sarah Dwyer was like 20, if I'm remembering right, like at the time she was working on these. So she was a bit of a comics prodigy that then moved over into animation, but she's very young at the time of this. But another example is Mxyzptlk, of course. Where, I mean, that's such a Silver Age idea. And then on the flip side, I think this is one of everybody's favorite episodes. I think everyone loves this episode.
Yeah.
The Mxyzpixelated, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that one. Yeah. and even went with the Silver Age design because Mxyzptlk didn't look like that at the time in the books. Because he was the orange and purple with the zigzag hair. And and they went with sort of like the cute like balloon nosed
right.
Guy in the purple suit.
Hey McGurk.
Yeah.
Right.
You could do a better Gilbert Godfrey than that.
I could. I wasn't trying. But no, I was gonna say they the only time they really got that sort of like more modern look, I think whatever they did on the Superboy TV show, they did have an actor who played Mixie, and it was definitely that other look as opposed to like the one you're saying from like the 30s, right? Or is it from his earliest earliest appearances?
Yeah.
Because the one that I grew up with was the one that's the much more of the orange and purple.
Right.
Yeah. That's the one that when I first encountered the character, that's the one that I knew was that one. So.
Yeah. And so you get like little nods to Silver Age here and there, but for the most part trying to modernize things and reshape it. But then you get the Kirby stuff, the Fourth World, New God stuff, and like, that's all the same era too. That's Silver Age. And they unapologetically use that as it is. Like,
Right. It's a good, I mean, one thing, again, when I think about that show, it's definitely a mix of, they pull a lot of great stuff from a lot of great things. Cause again, talking about characters that are established, when I think about Lex is basically, again, out of that Man of Steel mini, and I think Wolfman is the one. Marv Wolfman is the one who basically, because he was writing Adventures of Superman at that time, right after the launch of Man of Steel, is the idea of Lex as the businessman villain, the capitalist villain. And as much as I like some of the stories that is told in the comics, I think that definitively the take on it, because we get that same version in the Ruby Spears Superman too. Like that's the one that's also the villain in that one is not the super scientist or the convict or the guy in the purple and green Lex suit. We definitely
Right.
get the schemer and the plotter and the guy that's up in the tower, making everything happen in Metropolis. But I think this take on the character is probably the best take on that version of Lex.
Yeah. Well, and to me, always, like, as I became a bigger Superman fan because of the show, like, it always in my head felt to me that was happening too. We just didn't see it.
Okay.
Right. Like, he was all of those things. And I think it's fun when you get into, like, the Ghost in the Machine episode, which is Brainiac's comeback, when
right.
Basically, like, Brainiac takes Lex hostage and makes him forces him to build him a new body. It's one of the instances where it's like, okay, like, Lex has, scientific prowess as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we do get some of that. It's one of those things where I guess for me, the difference is right before that you have, you had like the 70s, late Silver Age, early Bronze Age stuff of Lex wearing like the purple and green, scientist suit. And then you have the revamp that I believe, who just redesigns that? It's not Gil Kane, because Gil Kane was the one that drew the Brainiac redesign. Maybe it's Perez, the Perez suit, the purple and green armor suit. And you have a lot more physical fights between, you have some of that stuff in the Silver Age too. But I'm saying, like, for the most part of all of Superman, well, for all of Superman, the animated series, does Lex throw a punch at him ever?
He gets aggressive with the version of Superman in the Brave New Metropolis episode, right? That's
right.
He has, like, the kryptonite ready to use on him, I remember. But yeah, I'm trying to think, like, physical with our actual Superman. Yeah, you may be right. I don't think he does ever.
It's not till Justice League, right? That Lex puts on, that Lex really graduates into full on, I'm going to fight superheroes as a super villain.
Right.
Lex, right. That kind of we traditionally knew before that. So, it's again, it's one of the, because normally when you're thinking like evil super scientist, super villain, Dr. Sivana from Captain Marvel or Shazam is usually like in a giant robot, where Lex is like the one to put on like an Iron Man type suit and fight him. So again, it's one of the things we're looking back at the series. Again, the idea that he never really does that, and it's not till later that it happens when it's not even the Superman series anymore, is interesting too, I think. Yeah. Because there's also the thing that starts in Man of Steel is the idea of Lex operating, through proxy. I'm going to have this guy fight Superman, or I'm going to create this, I'm going to create Bizarro, or, it can easily be explained as, oh no, that guy worked for LexCorp, but he's disgruntled, and that's why he's doing this Superman. Right. That whole plausible deniability that Lex has in this series, is different than the full-on confrontational one we used to get prior to it. Right. So, but we would be remiss talking about Lex and not talking about Clancy Brown.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And how amazingly, good. He's a great voice actor and an actor to begin with, but since then I can't think of Lex in any other way, voice wise, than Clancy. Right. Like that is, I don't know how it is for the rest of you, but that's how it is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very hard to not hear that voice, and I think every Lex voice casting is always going to be compared to him. Yeah. But the thing with this show is there's not a lot of people doing voices. No. Mm-hmm. It's for the most part like that's their voice. Whether it's like Malcolm McDowell is Metallo, or I'm trying to like Ed Asner, the late great Ed Asner's Granny Goodness. Like,
oh my god,
right?
So
Michael
good.
Ironside.
Yeah,
Michael Ironside is Darkseid. Like, he sounds like that. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah. It's funny. It's fun to think when I think about Michael Ironside. And he's so good as Darkseid. But I think back to again, this is not Superman, but when he did Legends of the Dark Knight episode, and he does the future, the Frank Miller Batman from Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. It's always funny. When I look back, I'm like, no, it's like he's just so good as Darkseid.
Yeah,
yeah.
And even the couple we've already mentioned in the episode, Livewire, Lori Petty and Mixius Pitalik, Gilbert Gottfried. It's just their voices. They're excellent, but they're not it's not like a Mark Hamill Joker situation.
No, not
like
really.
they're not totally disguised in that voice. It's just them doing their thing.
Sure. And then you get you get Mike Farrell doing Pa Kent and Shelley Fabre as Ma Kent. They're great too. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of episodes with them, but the episodes they're in are awesome.
And they're still alive. That's the other thing too. Yeah, Pa Kent doesn't die.
No.
The Kents don't die. That's another thing. No. It's like different from every other version.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. No, he can go. That's out of. I still say that's an influence of Byrne and Man of Steel is the idea that he can go. He can fly back to Smallville and talk to his parents, surrogate parents, but and get advice from them and hang out and have rhubarb pie, which is another holdover from Byrne.
Right.
But yeah, I just think, like I said, I just think there's so much that they do right in this series, and again, they borrow what they want to borrow from other stuff, and they make. What changes they make another one that's not a new character, but a character that definitely stuck for a long time was Toyman.
Yeah. I was definitely going to bring that one up.
Yeah, that redesign and that character and just how creepy that character got. As a redesign is really like one of the it's probably one of my favorite redesigns of all of the anime. I mean, like all of the Timm Verse stuff. Like that's one of my ones that I love. I think it's just a really great. It's not Winslow. It's not the goofy one we had or the one from like the Challenge of the Super Friends right. Or this one's again this one's it's unnerving. Right. a lot of his appearances.
He's not a cackling bad guy, right?
No.
I mean, I can kind of see how they extrapolated it from the Super Friends because the one in Super Friends looks like a marionette, right? Like he kind of looks like a doll, like a living doll. So I can see I can see how they extrapolated into this, but this is like the one we got is so much creepier, so creepy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the marionette one, the one that I knew from Super Friends, and then found out later they tried, they basically tried to do a modernization of the Winslow Shot.
Yeah, Winslow Shot, yeah.
And he appears in the comics first, but the one that I like growing up, Toyman from the Challenge of the Super Friends is the one that I knew. That version, the one that even more so looks like a marionette. If you've ever read Jim Krueger and Alex Ross's Justice,
okay,
that one is much more of like an actual like he looks like a wooden puppet version,
right,
of the marionette Toyman. But it's like I said that redesign for Superman is the one where I'm like, that Toyman I would be afraid of.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Like when he's got, the crack in the mask and, just
the monotone voice.
Yes. Yeah. That one is one of those redesigns. I'm like, yep, that's awesome. That's a really great design and execution of the character. I think it's really great. But it's not like I didn't like, I was trying to think about, is there any of the characters they do their version of quote unquote, like Corey Burton is Brainiac, is phenomenal too.
He's so good too. He's so good.
And again, getting back to talk about that DC Online game, he carries over to that, so he's Brainiac in that as well, and he's like the main thrust of like most of the game. And
the Kryptonian aspect has stuck too a lot too. I mean, like not 100% of the time, but that creeps in. A lot of times, what you're getting is kind of like an amalgam of the Milton Fine green Brainiac, but he's tied into Krypton in some way.
Right. You're right. Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those that's definitely stuck too. Which again, it's a nice, we always, Zach, you and I have talked many a time about making the circle too tight and having stuff be, but I still think that's a great, great place to make it fit is in the Krypton. I think that works really well, that Brainiac in there.
Yeah. I agree. So it's a great contribution.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, he's great. And you touched on the other one that this voice wise was Dana Delaney.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It's hard to think. It's hard not to think of Lois and Dana Delaney. Again, she's just so good as Lois.
You want to know what like she? I mean, God, I don't even know what to say about her. Like, you know what I mean? She's so fantastic in the role. Like it just, I don't know. I'm mumbling. I'm stuttering. I'm at a loss of words just how to describe like how good she is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's
right.
Great.
Like sure of herself. can get into trouble, but can also get herself out of it.
Right.
And there's episodes where like I would argue like she's the focal character for Brave New Metropolis, which is a big like fan favorite episode. Like that's her episode.
Yeah.
Monkey Fun is her episode. Like it's really cool. I like that she was such a point of focus. Even like and that's saying something because like she is in every version too, but like still somehow here it's like her role is upped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's one of the versions I like about Lois is in this version she's not, and again, I think it in some cases they extend it a little too, not in other stuff they extend it a little too far the character, but I think she's on equal footing with him, and I don't always like in other versions I don't always feel that way about Lois, or I don't always feel that way about another character that's tied to the superhero, but I think in this instance, like Lois Lane's a big deal on her own.
Right.
And again, I think that's kind of a holdover from, I hate to keep going back to it. I'm going to hit it again, but that's, you get that in Man of Steel, that Lois is the one that's got, the cachet or the, her byline is more important than Clark's early on. I mean, she's a big figure in Metropolis before Superman gets there. And even after, right? That's one of those things where I think I think they do that in this series as well.
They did this with Clark also, but this is a stupid visual thing with Lois that I love. Mm-hmm. I love that her design color palette changed from time to time, right? Because, we saw her a lot in the purple blazer and the white skirt and stuff, but I liked that in some episodes they would just color the same design differently. Right. It would just look like different clothes. Like she would be in a red blazer and a black skirt, and it just looked like she was changing. She was changing her wardrobe, and they did this sometimes with Clark, but not as often. Clark almost always was just in the blue suit, but sometimes you'd see him in a brown. And I like that they did that. I just think that it's a fun little trick.
Sure.
One thing you guys didn't really expound upon that I noticed that I loved about the story is how they dealt with the characters in their past and their personality that intertwine with the powers, especially with Superman. Like, for example, I remember Frank earlier was talking about Superman and how his vulnerability was. But if you look at the series, it grew after time because, again, we're retelling the whole entire scope of Superman, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so with that, a lot of his characters and villains change, as well as him getting used to his powers. But what I loved about it is they brought it back to his scientific roots without being scientific. Like his exploration of it, his understanding of it, and what his father used to be. Because for the most part, he'd get pummeled by whatever villain that he would be confronting. And then he had to outthink his way out of his situation in order to find a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about it. But you're right, though, with his vulnerability, like he was always being attacked in ways that you didn't think Superman be attacked, like whether it's a sound device that makes him hemorrhage from his ears, or the depowering of him from the lack of getting sunlight, or just having to wear a spacesuit in space because we don't know that if it was through radiation or through lack of oxygen. But again, it was this understanding of who he was and who his environment became as a result of it.
He had a dive suit too. There's one episode where he has to go underwater and he has a scuba suit too. You're right. I mean, that's a cool note that we didn't bring up, but Superman at full strength still needed a scuba suit and a space suit to go into different environments.
At least in the early years and where they're trying to retell.
Yeah.
But on another note too, again, with Clifton was saying about the look and how they stepped with the Flasher stuff, I think it gave them ample opportunity to dive into the Kirby stuff, because this is the only cartoon that we get where it's every scientific thing is a nod to Kirby, whether it's Apocalypse or Edward Leitner's tools or Lex Luthor's equipment. It was always Kirby-esque, regardless of what the scientific notion was. It was always that circle, square, line that looked like a an envisioned circuit board that always gave it that
Kirby
that
machinery.
Yes, it was extremely prevalent in this series. And the characterization, like with Lex, what you were saying earlier, Frank, with Lex on how he's a businessman. But I saw it envisioned as, just like with Lois, what you said earlier, there are already established people within Metropolis, and Superman, or better, Clark Kent, was the new guy in town. It is established, though, that Lex Luthor built half the town. So part of his legacy with the town is him being like the mayor, but not the mayor, because everyone knows about him. And Lois is constantly on the fight to show people that he's not who he seems, in which she's always on a mission to expose him for the person that he really is. And I enjoy that because you get subtle nods to Lex as super scientist, especially what you said earlier, Zach, with the one with Brainiac, in which Brainiac forces him to use a super scientist. Because I see it as this: if he's a businessman that got through science and made his money there, it's like almost working a position that you don't think you have to do, but you can work on the mentality of other people in order to make your stuff work. Because I did that when I started up, but I don't have to rely on that. Hence why we get Metallo being one of the people that he manipulates to fight for him. Like everyone fights for him, and it comes to no avail. So I think it's a progression of the character that we get the super suit in Justice League.
Yeah.
And he's like, F that, I'm going to do my own thing. I can't trust these people because they're always failing me.
Yeah, you're right. There's a little, as you were talking, that made me realize there's a little evil Tony Stark with this version, right? Like, yeah.
But he's never had a threatened Superman. It's always people. So why get that smart with these people that, I mean, it's made him billions. That's why I always looked at Lex in that regard, as far as why I love the series and why it developed. And then there's the three-dimensional character. I mean, we get how people are, or not necessarily related to, I won't say their relationships with Superman. I mean, you understand why Jimmy Olsen is there, which he doesn't get played up as much, but he's definitely there. You get him and Batman's first meeting. You even get Lana. And what I like about Lana is Superman, it shows that Clark doesn't have bad taste, because Lana's a supermodel, you know?
Right.
So so it steps up Lois Lane, like he's on that she's on that level, but they don't play it up like that. I mean, you even have like with Leitner, Luminous. He does all he does to try and fall in love with Lois. And she spurns him despite him losing his job with Lex, which is again plays on her, how much she's a figure and how much people want to be with her. I mean, hell, they even make Bruce Wayne fall in love with her.
Right.
So it's no small thing to say. It's not like she's a typical person that Clark likes. It's like falling in love with a supermodel, or that's the best person that's ever done it. And it definitely shows that she's of greater stature than him. But you damn near get the introduction of the Justice League through this show as well.
Yeah.
With like Flash, Aquaman, Kyle Rayner,
Green Lantern,
Dr. Fate.
Dr. Fate.
What else? I'm forgetting something. Oh, you even have Orion. I don't think we ever got Orion prior to that. When you finally get the nod to Apocalypse.
Yeah.
We get Granny Goodness. I'm trying to think what else. We got Maxima, whom we never see before since then.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
We get Lobo for the first time.
Lobo in the first season.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. I mean, there is this show did push the guest star button from time to time. I think they did it elegantly. In my opinion, I feel like there was enough there that like you got excited when the ad came on and you were like, oh, Flash is going to be on next week,
right?
But I never thought it got too out of hand. What did you guys think? I'm just curious.
I mean, I was rooted in Brave and the Bold, DC Comics Presents. So for me, it was not surprising that they would go that route and allow. And the other thing is the fact that I'm trying to think. Again, when you're comparing the two series, Batman the Animated Series has guest stars, but it's not quite the same volume, I would say.
Right.
There's, you've got the Demon and the Creeper, Jonah Hex.
Right. Zatanna.
And that's about it. So maybe they have about the same. But no, I think the ones that they chose made sense. And again, you could definitely see that they were, I know there was a Wizard article at the time that showed like designs for, I believe like Vixen and The Question. There was more, what was the other one? There was like, some other characters that they trying to expand that universe, that there was talk of like that might build into a Justice League show someday. So the idea that they were seeding that made sense, but obviously the Justice League that we got was different.
Yeah.
And then again, some of the takes on the characters, we get a fairly traditional Aquaman in Superman, and then we get a different one in Justice League. So
who voiced Aquaman in Superman?
Is it Miguel Ferrer?
It is Miguel Ferrer. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Yeah, the late Miguel Ferrer.
Yeah, and then like Charlie Slattery does the voice of
the Flash right
in that episode.
And when they did Legion, and they kind of got an all-star cast to do voices for Legion at the time.
Right, it's a great episode
because you had Jason Priestley as Chameleon Boy, and Melissa Joan Hart and Chad Lowe, as Saturn Girl, and Chad Lowe is Colossal Boy or Cosmic Boy.
Yeah. Ooh, I have a question real quick that just occurred to me. Weren't they producing Batman Beyond and Superman at the same time at one point?
They were doing Superman first, then the new episodes of Batman started up. They were doing Superman and Batman at the same time. But they said towards the end there was a period where they were doing Batman and Superman and doing pre-production on Batman Beyond. Like all at the same time.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, because I'm trying to think which came first. Are those intro or those Justice League characters in Superman or Batman Beyond? It's obviously Batman Beyond that spun into Justice League Unlimited Justice League as opposed to Superman.
Tim was very vocal for a long time about never wanting to do a Justice League show. Interestingly, I was reading an interview with him that was published published after Justice League had started, but all the interviews and everything were conducted before that. And he was like adamant, you're never going to see me do a Justice League show. And like so much so that like he would talk about like nods to the Justice League that Dini would write in scripts for like Batman flashback stuff. And Tim was like, nope, we're not doing Justice League. We're not doing Justice League. And then finally, when they did the Justice League episode of
Batman
Beyond, it was just supposed to be kind of like a treat. Like he wasn't thinking of it as like a pilot for that. But his issue was always like, he said it started when they started doing the new Batman episodes, and you had like Robin, Batgirl, and Batman in fight sequences, and then he was like, just the staging of it became so hard. It was like what's Batgirl doing when you're on Batman for? He's like, you can't be on Batman for too long because you're wondering what's happening to the other people. And he was like, it was that on steroids with the Justice League, and it's like they're not even fighting purse snatchers.
Oh no!
They all have to be super powered people, and he just like logistically, he was like, "No way, I'm never going to do this." And then he did an awesome show.
Yes, and there's some amazing fights in Justice League. There's some amazing staging in that Justice League. So yeah.
Oh, and I forgot they also introduced Supergirl.
Yeah.
Supergirl and Aquaman are kind of interesting examples of it because one, notably, really quick, I'll say Aquaman. They went with a classic take that was not at all the take going on in the books at the time.
Right.
They ignored the long hair,
hook hand,
bearded, hook hand, barbarian Aquaman, which they then turned around and went like, no, there's actually something to that idea that we like in Justice League later. But yeah. The other thing too is that they went with a classic Supergirl, which again was not the take at the time.
Well, they do go with a redesign for her look, but they do go with a very classic origin.
Well, but she's humanoid. She's not. I'm not even going to try and get into what the Supergirl.
She's not protoplasm,
during the 90s.
No, at the time, not at all. No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, again, for her, I'm just saying again, it's one of those things that was reflected back in the books was that look from the series. Definitely was a thing. was
right,
a thing
the T-shirt.
that stuck around for
Yeah.
a while. You know, and then now that
Yeah.
she's back into a more traditional, somewhat costume from her 50s appearance.
Interestingly, also maybe kind of a precursor to what Superboy ended up being. His design later on in the comics became, right? Certainly not in the 90s, because Superboy was the earring and the leather jacket,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
I'm talking like the Superboy we think of now, like in the Young Justice with the black T-shirt and the jeans. Like,
Right.
maybe that Supergirl was kind of the inspiration for that. I don't know.
Maybe.
Never thought about it.
Could be. Yeah. Well, but the other thing, you know, I kind of feel bad that we've gotten this far in the episode and we haven't mentioned Tim Daly yet.
Yeah.
You know, he's only the marquee character. I mean, he's only the main character of this entire thing. So we should talk a little bit about Tim Daly.
From Wings?
Yeah, that guy. He's going to be Superman and Clark Kent.
Oh,
yeah,
I bet he's good.
Yeah, no, he is. He was great. Love Tim Daly as Superman. I don't know that I don't love George Newbern, and it took a little getting used to, but they both have their strengths. But yeah, Tim Daly's great as Superman and Clark.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge what I thought. Well, I just kept thinking about all the stuff we talked about.
No,
like,
you're right too.
It was quite an omission. That was correct.
You're right too, and you know, and yeah, and you're right. It was a little bit of an adjustment to listen to George Newbern when he got cast in Justice League, and then later also like a little bit of an adjustment when it wasn't George Newbern and it was Tim Daly, like later on in other movies and stuff like that. Like it was,
yeah. But no, I think Tim Daly, again, the guy from Wings, that with, you know, it's like, I remember the announcement, I was like, I don't know how that's going to go. And it goes quite well. He's very good as both those characters.
Yeah.
And Donna Delaney from China Beach.
Yeah.
That's all I knew her from before then.
It's a shocker. She was in an episode of Moonlighting. That's where I knew her from.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
No joke. I'm not kidding. That's where I knew her from, and then China Beach. So
Moonlighting had to come up somewhere.
Of course. So
I guess maybe we got a little bit of time before we need to close out. Do we want to spend this last bit on Kirby? Because we've kind of tiptoed around it, but I don't think we've like gone at it just yet.
Right.
Let's talk Kirby.
Yeah.
Let's talk Kirby for sure. Because again, like I said earlier, I don't think the show would have. Again, I think this show and then the trajectory into Justice League and Unlimited, both of those shows would not have been the same without the Fourth World and Darkseid and Kirby stuff.
Right.
I mean, there's just so much stuff from boom tubes to characters that you just wouldn't. I don't know how they would have done a lot of the stuff they did.
He pops up. Darkseid pops up at the end of an episode in season 1, at the end of Tools of the Trade, and that's your first glimpse of Apocalypse, where you see this scary looking guy with this deep gravelly voice that you know you swear is synthesized, and it's not.
No.
And he's basically standing in hell, and it's like, who's that guy? Like this guy, right? Like this guy's bad news. But I think one of the coolest things that they did with the Kirby stuff is when they sort of tell the origin of New Genesis and Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think this is in Apocalypse Now Part 1. They do a neat little just like summarization of the whole backstory to the Fourth World. And what I think is kind of neat about it is it goes widescreen.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really like thought about it much when I was younger watching it, but I think that it's really kind of a cool way to kind of put focus, because this wasn't Samurai Jack. This show didn't do this often, ever really. Like this is the only time where it changed aspect ratio to be cinematic, right?
Right.
I think to call your attention to like, no, this is going to be important moving forward. Like, it's a cool little, you know, summarization of the Kirby stuff in like what, a minute? I don't know.
Right.
But no, I was thinking about Kirby stuff in the show, and I think it's interesting. It's like the first place we get like the female Furies outside of the comics. I think is this is the first place we get them.
Intergang isn't Intergang like Intergang's Kirby, yeah.
Intergang's a Kirby creation, yeah.
But I'm trying to think, was Intergang in? I want to say Intergang is in Lois and Clark, the TV series.
Okay, is it? Oh, really?
I
just couldn't remember.
I thought somebody played Bruno Mannheim.
Oh,
in that show?
Were
probably.
No, you're right. They were in Lois and Clark.
Okay, but again, like I said, I was surprised that they had so much Kirby stuff in
but we also get Kanto, we get
Mhm.
Steppenwolf, and we get
Mhm.
Kalibak. Oh,
Right. Yeah, the Calabac, the
all
Father's
in
Day
there.
episode is awesome.
Mhm.
The one where
Yeah.
but I was the
Oh,
other,
you're talking about this show. I thought you meant Lois and Clark for a minute. I'm like, we get
no.
Steppenwolf and Lois and Clark?
Hey,
Yeah.
Calabac? I don't remember that episode
I was
on
like,
Sunday
what?
nights.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No. It was not Michael Dorn playing him either.
It could have been,
Right.
though.
Could have been though, sure. But no, the other Kirby thing that we get is Turpin.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one
Yeah.
that I always think of because again, I mean, it might as well be, Jack. You know, it might as well be
himself.
Kirby.
Yeah.
You know, in it being, as Turpin. You know, there's just Turpin's great as a character. We get Maggie Sawyer, which is from I think Wolfman. Again, either Wolfman or Byrne created her for Superman, and they used her in Adventures of Superman too. But yeah, Turpin's one of the things that I love about the series too that we get.
Yeah.
You know, that is clearly an homage, if not an outright. You know, let's put Jack Kirby in the Superman show.
Right.
But no, I'm trying to think what else. You know,
You hit a lot of fun ones there because you said Father's Day, which is the Calabac episode.
mm-hmm.
That's one to watch. That's the good example of like every punch hurts.
Yeah. Oh,
because it's just another super strength guy fighting Superman, and that episode is just a 20-minute fight,
yeah.
and yet it's awesome. It's one of my favorite episodes,
It's great.
like ever of that show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade to Zack Snyder here, and I think
Oh.
I think Zack Snyder has watched this show because truthfully I don't think he's read a lot of comics.
Okay.
Right.
That's not a
I
hot
think
take.
Steppenwolf is the bad guy in Justice League because he appears in the show.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean,
That's my hot take for this.
It could be.
Okay.
I tend to think it's more along the lines of because I was thinking back on when you get Darkseid and Calabac, a version of Calabac, not this version, and then Dazad in Superpowers, the Galactic Guardian show, or the one right after it. And then, much like we've talked about it in other shows about toys, Steppenwolf was the mail away for Superpowers. There was a couple of different ones. There was that one, and then there was blue suited Clark Kent. That was the other one.
Okay.
Like you can find the commercial on YouTube where Mark, what's his name? Mark, who played Jimmy Olsen in this Christopher Reeve Superman movie. He's also in Supergirl, the Helen Slater one. But he's he there's a commercial with him telling kids, hey kids, collect your superpowers points or whatever they were called to mail away. But Steppenwolf was the first one with the big axe. So I always thought, that's where a lot of that stuff comes from, is like from toys or from remembrances and stuff. He may have watched this show, I don't know, but I think that's why we got, instead of getting the first outing of Darkseid in movies, we got, Calabac, not Calabac, Steppenwolf. Sorry.
Right. All right, so let's start closing out. This is an awesome show. Awesome.
Yep.
So sad. Never got a movie. That's the thing that breaks my heart, is that everything else got an animated movie and this one didn't, because Brainiac Attacks doesn't count. And I'll tell you why really quick. One, it's awful. But two, it's not considered canon. My understanding of Brainiac Attacks was that the only reason it looks like the animated series was a cost-cutting thing.
Yeah, they had the models already done.
They're just like, like if we use Timm's designs, we don't have to redesign everything.
Right.
Like it was not really intended to be a Superman movie.
Right.
So I just wanted to get that out there. But anyway, okay, so we're gonna start closing out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say our favorite episode and the most underappreciated episode in our opinion. But first, if you like the show, you can check out all of our episodes on YouTube and letmeknowhowitis.com. Just please, however you find us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And finally, if you'd like to suggest a topic for an episode, you can send them our way in the comments or on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is our show's initials, LMKHII. All right. Frank, you want to go first?
Of every episode?
Of every episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll go with my favorite. This is tough because I love so much of this series, but I am going to go with, let me see real quick.
I already know mine.
Okay. I'm going to go with Nighttime as my favorite.
That's your favorite. Okay.
Yeah, as my favorite. I mean, there's too many. Many 2-parters or 3-parters, and I'm like, as an episode, I love this episode just because, it's got everything. It's got Batman and Robin. It's got Batman villains. It's got Superman trying to be, Batman. And it shows again one of those. It's a good example of why, when people try to make Superman into Batman or Batman, and they don't really try to make Batman into Superman, but they definitely try to make him be more like the characters he's not. It's such a good example of no, he's not that. He's this.
Right.
And I think we don't get, obviously we didn't have at the time something like Superman versus the Elite that we can basically point to and be like, no, this is Superman. I think this episode does it really well in about 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
A quick premise on this episode is that Batman's gone missing and Superman has to dress like Batman to help Robin find him.
Right.
I have one gripe about that episode.
What's your one gripe?
Oh, it should have been Dick, not Tim.
What's your most underappreciated episode, Frank?
Underappreciated? I would go with, I believe it's Solar Power, the one with Luminous coming back.
Okay.
That's the one I think. Because I just think that character is got so much potential. They show how he basically, most of the time we see Superman, it's either magic or kryptonite. Those are the easiest ones to mess with them with. And I think this was a really inventive and cool villain that they should probably use more of.
Yep. And he's got a Tron suit on, which is cool. It's a cool visual.
He's got a Tron Kirby suit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So those are my choices.
All right, Tommy. Favorite episode and most underappreciated episode.
Favorite episode almost falls into a 3-parter, but I say the first one, which is World's Finest Part 1.
Well, yeah.
I've seen this episode maybe 50 times if I'm counting. I can quote it. I love everything about it on how it's a lot of firsts. You get the glaring one, Batman and Superman, but you also get Joker and Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
You get Lois and Bruce Wayne, Lois and Batman, even how she thinks of Batman. You also get Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor, which is something that makes sense.
Yep.
You even get Harley Quinn and Mercy, which is hilarious.
Oh, we didn't talk about Mercy at all either.
Yeah, not at all. His girl Friday gets everything done. Bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a whole nother thing. But it's just their interactions naturally, not forced. You get the Joker and Superman, which is hilarious. Top to bottom, I love the introduction, but to capitalize it all, I love how the first episode shows each. I love how the whole 3-parter shows their weaknesses and strengths, even when they fight the other one's villains, and how they almost fail miserably because they underestimate the power of the other one.
Yeah,
right.
That was great. It's a great episode.
Yeah. I love that.
The nightclub scene is awesome too.
Yes.
Yep.
Where
most underappreciated one.
Oh, the late Mr. Kent.
Okay.
I like it because I think it's underappreciated because you see him, Clark being Clark. As much as he knows who he is as Superman, it definitely shows that Superman is the character he plays, but Clark who he is really. And it also shows his intuitiveness for dealing with the situation is, what if Clark died? And he doesn't, because he's Superman. Because I love the premise in which he steps on. Clark Kent as a reporter comes into a situation in which the person he's investigating tries to kill him, and had he been human, it would have worked.
Yep.
Right.
But now he's forced to find a way in order to show that Clark didn't really die without exposing his secret as Superman.
Yep.
And how he resolves that is fairly interesting and funny, especially its effect on Lois Lane.
And solve the case.
And solve the case of who killed him.
Too, which is cool. Yeah. So it's a car bomb that has witnesses. So people are like, that guy's dead. but it's like
Right.
it goes into the water, and then it's Superman is he's fine, but he's got to act like Clark is dead. Yeah.
Right.
But I like his reaction to him being dead and thinking he has to be Superman all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he freaks out in front of his parents. And it's a nice bit.
It's a very Silver Age premise, but it works really well. It's really good.
Mhm.
And then you also see how Lois deals with it. And when he resolves it, it's hilarious. That I don't want to spoil, because how she's pissed off that he's alive, but at the same time not, it's hilarious. But yeah, that's the underrated one.
All right, Clifton. Favorite episode, most underappreciated.
I had a couple that are probably tied, and one of them was the Toy Man episode we talked about before.
Mm.
So the one that we haven't talked about, one that we didn't talk about, is also season 1, and it is The Way of All Flesh, which was the Metallo episode.
That's a good one.
Yep.
And it has, was it Malcolm McDowell as Metallo? So you can't beat that.
No.
And,
Nope.
And the reason I like this one is that it really, like, I'd kind of, knowing Metallo from the comics, I had never thought too much of a villain. He seemed kind of goofy idea, like the man with the kryptonite heart. That doesn't sound too bad. But in this one, it really made me like get a much better sense of the character and the danger he posed to Superman, and just sympathetic on his own, as it's kind of like a man or monster type of thing that he's in, of like who he is. And I just really like that one a lot, just for really making me have a much better understanding of that character. And I really like Metallo now.
Nice. Okay. That's your both favorite and most underappreciated?
That's my favorite. My underappreciated one, again, is this one. I think a lot of people don't like this one, and it's Superman's Pal.
Okay.
Which is another throwback. That's why I like it. It's such a throwback to a Silver Age idea where Jimmy Olsen gets publicly declared as Superman's pal, and then it puts a target on him.
Yep.
And everyone comes gunning for Superman's pal to get to Superman, and it's such a classic like Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen plot that I like that they decided to attempt it. That's what I like about that one.
Okay. All good picks. You guys took some of mine. Late Mr. Kent was going to be my favorite episode. Tommy, you took it. Okay. I love that episode. Clifton, The Way of All Flesh was going to be my most underappreciated.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Yeah, I think the Metallo origin is awesome. Honorable mention to the Parasite origin, which is also very good. But so I will say, just to say some new ones, my favorite one is the Promethean.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is Superman fighting that giant heat absorbing creature from space.
Yep.
That I think people that didn't read the comics, we all thought that it was the introduction to Doomsday, but it wasn't. No, it's just an awesome episode of Superman fighting just kind of like a giant kaiju. And then my most underappreciated, I'm going to go with My Girl from season 1, which is the Lana episode.
Okay.
And it's kind of it's Superman versus arms dealers, which is kind of neat.
Right.
You know, not apocalypse related yet. It's just some kooky inventor that's, making just awful weapons that can do unspeakable destruction. And Lana is in town because she's now dating Lex, and she's trying to help Superman by being kind of his partner on the inside, which is neat. And I love that episode. And I love their dynamic. So, but you should check out all of these episodes if you haven't.
Yes.
Should point out that the Superman animated series Blu-ray is coming out. That's going to be like fully remastered, which is kind of neat. HD remaster, which is awesome. When Batman got its HD remaster, those episodes were HD on HBO Max. So I'm hoping that maybe Superman will make the up conversion.
Yeah.
But, we'll see. I would love it. I would love it. Anyway, so let us know what your guys' favorite episodes are, underappreciated episodes, favorite moments. As always, we'll post links and examples to everything we talk about on letmeknowhowitis.com. Please remember to like us and follow us on social media, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.